I crossed my legs and rested my fingertips on the rim of my glass as I sat down in the chair next to them. They moved in unison, initially hesitating before settling into a beat. She let out a gasp as his slow, methodical touch guided her. As I stared, I let out a breath and felt a surge of warmth. I had intended to remain on the sidelines, but it became more difficult to resist the longer I stayed there. Please hit like and subscribe before we start. It significantly aids in the channel's expansion. Thank you for being here. If you have already done so, let's begin now. She groaned and sank into the couch, saying, I swear, I don't even remember what it feels like to be with a man. I swirled my wine and laughed. She moaned, That's honestly tragic. It is. Months or perhaps a year have passed. I gave a headshake. I couldn't be it. I doubt I could keep my spouse from jumping for a week. She gave an eye roll. Yes, we understand. The husband lottery was won by you. I grinned, but I did. The man is well versed in how to treat a woman. She took a deep breath. It must be pleasant. I cocked my head to observe her. She appeared exhausted, not just worn out, but depleted. She might have missed the company, but I suspected this had to do with something more tangible. I wonder whether that is the issue. She scowled. What's wrong? I leaned a little closer. You believe that your divorce is the reason behind your current feelings, but perhaps you simply need a man who is competent. Her eyes widened as her head sprang up. I'm sorry. I simply took another sip while grinning. You wouldn't need to search after all. She gave a blink. What is meant by that? I waited for the stillness to lengthen before I spoke. How about if I lent you mine? Her breath caught. You're not serious. I simply continued to smile. We were entangled in bed later that day, our bodies buzzing with the afterglow and our skin moist. I continued to enjoy the ecstasy that only he could provide me as I stretched and ran sluggish fingertips over his chest. That was amazing, I whispered. His eyes were half lit as he grinned. As usual, I let the warmth to develop between us and the silence to remain. I then remarked nonchalantly, She needs this. He scowled. Who? I said. My friend, while supporting myself on one elbow. She is lonely and depressed. She simply wants to feel wanted once more, in my opinion. Still not following, he scowled a little. I felt his breath catch as I ran my fingernails over his tummy. And perhaps you could assist. He stiffened. Are you serious, please? I gave a nod. This is necessary for her. Additionally, you are an expert at making women feel wonderful. He wiped his face and let out a breath. I'm not sure. I pressed my lips to his jaw as I leaned forward. I would be there, observing and directing. His breath faltered. I sensed both his reluctance and his curiosity. You trust me, don't you? His fingers trembled at my waist as I muttered, and his grasp slightly tightened. I knew I had him already. When my husband entered the kitchen the following morning, still dazed, I was pouring coffee. We should invite her over, I remarked, passing him a mug. He scowled when I looked him in the eye to speak. He paused. You mean I smirked when you say talk? You'll see. A pause. He rubbed the back of his neck and let out a sigh, but he remained silent. That was sufficient. The text was sent by me. She responded practically right away. Yes, I could make use of the business. Her eyes were clearer and more inquisitive when she came, but she still appeared exhausted, as if she hadn't completely shed the burden she was carrying. With coffee in hand, we took a seat. I tilted my head after allowing the situation to calm. Been reflecting on our conversation. She glanced at me from the side. Perhaps. She sighed as I grinned. Although I understand what you're saying, it's not always simple to just... She made a hazy gesture. I leaned a little closer. But what if it was? Her eyebrows furrowed. By what do you mean? I ran my fingers over my husband's skin as I went for his wrist. Her gaze wavered between us. We'd want to assist, I whispered. Quiet. She gave a blink. Are you serious? I gave a nod. She swallowed, looking from him to me, trying to find something. I maintained eye contact with her. Do you not trust me? A protracted silence. At last, she put down her coffee. What exactly do you propose? I grinned. Allow me to demonstrate. With a steady breath and a quiet pulse beneath my skin, I led them into the bedroom, but on the inside, I was burning. She moved cautiously and uncertainly as she followed. In contrast, my spouse entered the room with a slight tenseness in his body, as if he was still absorbing the impending event. I was fully aware of what I was doing. I turned to face him first, carefully removing his shirt with ease as I ran my fingertips down his chest. His muscles flexed slightly when I touched them, and his breathing became more labored. Then, I turned to her. She remained motionless, torn between excitement and trepidation. She seemed to be waiting for approval as her lips opened. I teased the material of her top while grinning and slipping my hands over her shoulders. Since she didn't back off, I took my time. One article of clothes fell to the ground first, followed by another. The air's weight changed. My husband's hands moved slowly and deliberately as he reached for her. Although he was still hesitant, his touch was steady. She let out a trembling breath and sank into his warmth, allowing him to lead the way. I took a step back and lowered myself onto the chair next to the bed. I watched, absorbing the way his hands moved over her, her reaction, and the tiny moans that escaped her mouth. I felt a surge of heat as I crossed my legs due to the pressure. I desired this, to witness him in this state, to witness her in this state, to feel the hotter, tighter tension coil. I watched as his hands traced her curves and his lips found her neck, tracing lower. Her body responded to every touch and slow motion as she arched beneath him. Warmth coursed through me as I shifted and pressed my thighs together. My breathing is becoming labored. My fingers brushed my dress's hem. The heat between my legs is turning into a steady, painful pulse. Just like that, I said, in a calm, reassuring manner. Take your time with her. He did, his lips pressed lower, trailing along her skin, his hands steady as he guided her back against the mattress. With her fingers tangled in his hair and a gentle sigh slipping from her lips, she sank beneath him. I gently ran my fingernails over my bare thigh, and the tingling feeling made me feel even more in need. She was stunning. He was too. They were even more seductive when combined. I teased myself by making slow, languid circles against the delicate skin underneath my garment, mimicking their rhythmic motions. She took a sharp breath as my husband's hands moved down. Her body trembled under his touch as her fingers pushed into his shoulders. I saw her give in to him while breathing irregularly and biting my lip. "Do you like the way he touches you?" With a soft, playful voice, I inquired. She didn't respond verbally, only by the way she clutched to him and the way her breath caught. It was sufficient. The heat flowing between them, the slow, methodical movements, and the sounds filling the room. I had assumed that I could merely observe and take pleasure in this situation. However, as the tension increased and their mutual enjoyment grew, I became aware of something more. I wasn't sure how long I could remain on the sidelines, and I was starting to become restless. I was on fire. My body's temperature had risen too high. The tension wound was very tight. It became more difficult to remain on the sidelines with each look, breath, and quiet sound that permeated the room. And I no longer desired to. My husband's breath caught, and his deep, impenetrable eyes flicked to mine as I got up from the chair and moved closer, letting my fingertips brush his arm. She turned as well, her expression vacillating between doubt and eagerness. Knowing, I gave a slow smile. "Move up," I said, pulling him back against the pillows while running my fingers through his hair. His body tensed under my touch, his chest rising and falling heavily. He obeyed without asking. Then I turned to her. "Come here," I urged gently, my voice full of promise and love. Her breath was erratic as she paused. However, she did follow. As he steadied her with solid hands by her sides, she moved into him and molded her body against his. As I observed, I noticed how they moved in unison, how they conversed silently, and how hotly we all interacted. After that, I got on the bed and stood above him, placing my hands on his shoulders. I shuddered at the warmth of his breath. I leaned forward and guided her by putting my hands on her arms. Just like that, I muttered against her lips, pushing her chin toward me. "Let me help you." As I put my mouth to hers and tasted the fire that was still on her skin, she let out a short exhale. Her fingers curled around my waist as she melted into me, allowing me to take charge and lead. I set the pace and helped her discover the rhythm as I pressed my hands to her sides and intensified our kiss. She did as I said, moving in time with me and tying our breaths together. My husband moaned beneath me and drew me in closer, his fingers digging into my back. I felt a sudden surge of warmth that caused me to gasp against her lips. I tilted her head to intensify the kiss as tangled my fingers in her hair. The way her body responded to my hands and the smoothness of her skin just intensified the fire inside of me. I sensed the stress increasing. With each step, each touch, and each sound, the suspense grows as we all teeter on the brink. Her hold tightened on me as her breath became erratic. My husband's body tensed beneath us as his hands clenched at my sides. It was too much, sharp and devouring. The energy coiled until it eventually unraveled. A wave of warmth washed over me. My breath caught in quick, irregular gasps as my body shook. Around me, I sensed tension as the moment's weight pressed down on us all, leaving the room with a lingering sense of heat and contentment. None of us moved for a very long time. Our bodies were entangled, our breathing irregular, and the air was heavy with warmth. Then, with a deep, contented smile curling my lips, I fell into the bed and stretched languidly. With a trembling giggle, she ran her fingers over her dishevelled hair. Even in the aftermath, my husband's grip remained protective as he let out a heavy breath and draped his arm over my tummy. With my heart still pounding, I turned to look between them. I hadn't anticipated how much I would love it myself, but I had wanted to offer her something to help her. Furthermore, I wasn't positive that this would be the final instance. The tangled blankets and the steady rise and fall of breathing were bathed in a pleasant glow from the morning light that came through the curtains. My body was still buzzing from the previous night, so I stretched idly. My spouse stirred next to me, his arm encircling my waist in a possessive manner. She moved to the opposite side, her fingers caressing my skin absently. There was only a subtle, enduring warmth that seeped into my bones. There was no embarrassment or remorse. I glanced between them as I turned my head, a sly smile teasing my mouth. Giving her what she needed had been the focus of last night. But I was aware now. This was just as much fun for me, if not more. And I was confident of one thing as I made languid circles against my husband's chest. This would not be the final instance. I persuaded myself that this was merely a way to support her. I'm not so sure now, though. Is this something that only the brave would attempt, or should some secrets remain hidden? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. I'm interested in hearing all viewpoints. Please like, subscribe, and enable notifications if you liked this. What comes next is something you won't want to miss. I'll see you shortly.